What industry is a lot shadier than it seems? Avocado farms. Most of the farms in Central America are taken over by the cartel because of how much money is in selling avocados. The textbook industry. Pearson is the freaking mafia. Seriously? The funeral business preys on people's weakest moments to convince them to buy ridiculously unnecessary stuff. Trucking. The margins are razor thin, and so everyone is trying to nickel and dime each other constantly. The drivers lie to their dispatchers. The dispatchers lie to the brokers. The brokers lie to the clients. All of this for like $50, $100 sometimes. Health insurance. In the commercials it is all about caring for your health and stuff. But if you ever get a serious illness, they will do anything to avoid paying for your treatment. Source: my mother got breast cancer and her health insurance made a business decision to let her die rather than pay the $40 for her treatment. They made that decision, then hired lawyers to make it happen. My mom got to fight them in court while going through chemo. She made it by mortgaging the house. She told me the insurance company caused her more stress than the prospect of dying. CBD. Lot of predatory companies making subpar products with questionable raw materials and then marking it way the frick up and selling it as a miracle cure to vulnerable and ill-educated consumers. Usually have a high-power legal team on deck, but pay their workers crap and no benefits. Edit. Because so many people are asking. While I used to be in sales in the industry and have my own opinions about who's good out there, it's a woefully short list. You'll probably have your best luck checking out the top recommendations at r/CBD. They have a whole pinned post about best companies that they've, hopefully, vetted well. All industries are shadier than they seem. I used to work for a flute manufacturer, and it was shady as hell. Not an industry, but higher academia is badly broken. Some of the smartest people are some of the most badly exploited. Old tenured professors limit the number of faculty many departments can have, forcing people to work as postdocs forever, effectively doing all the work the prof should be doing in the first place. Meager pay and long hours, plus constant pressure makes postdocs some of the most depressed people. The grad students are no better either. A lot of the times grad students don't complain about ill treatment, harassment and outright bullying as they don't want to jeopardize their prospects of graduating. If you're a foreigner, this situation becomes even worse, whether you're a grad student or a postdoctoral researcher. The maritime industry. Most of the big companies do things by the book and treat crews well because they are afraid of lawsuits and unions. But many smaller mom and pop companies break laws and violate safety regulations with reckless abandon because they are not as visible and can stay under the radar, so to speak. It's very common for a small company to ask a captain/crew to do something illegal and dangerous in order to increase profit, and for the captain/crew to comply out of fear of losing their jobs. And that's just the US maritime industry. Sailors from poorer nations who work on ships are often fed little more than rice and cheap ramen for months at a time and paid pennies for their back-breaking work. I love running tugs for a living, but the industry as a whole is rife with shady business. Dietary supplements. It's gotten better, but there's still a lot of half-truths and whole lies. Not all that long ago it was seriously like the wild wild west. As a chef/owner, I would say delivery services like Grubhub, they take 30% of the sale, leaving the restaurant with basically $0 in profit. And their customer support is a joke. It's like they hate us. Frick them. Never again. Pet industry. Basement puppy mills and dogs that are so inbred they can hardly breathe. There are plenty of ethical breeders out there, and some unlicensed breeders are ethical, even if in a legal gray zone. But the conditions of some of the so-called puppy mills can be really bad. Sometimes when breeds are mixed, and the pup gets the recessive genes the breeders weren't looking for, they straight up euthanize it, because they know it won't sell. Not to mention how many purebreds are actually not pure at all, and sold as is. Shady. Jewelry/gems/diamonds is pretty dark. Advertising. We don't really give a frick if it works. We already got your money. Sunglass industry. Recruitment industry. Some examples. Fake jobs to lure candidates for registration. KPIS. Trainee negotiation tactics of telling a candidate there is a better candidate who wants less, so we recommend less for you to get the job, especially for contractors. Coveting off pitching and telling a candidate they have been sent to a line manager, but in reality they haven't been submitted because 2 others from same recruiter have already been in interviews. If they fail you may get a chance. Lot of coded ways to put on a database info on your age, non-professional related appearance, and ethnicity. Ageism, sexism, racism is rampant in hiring. A lot more dodgy stuff behind the scenes. Source was involved with the industry on a global level for over 15 years before I changed careers. Eyeglasses. You have no idea the snow job they put most people through when it comes to buying them. It's far worse than trying to buy a new car from a dealership. Wholesale frames are about $5.20. Wholesale lens blanks are another $10. Any kind of dip coating, tinting, etc. is negligible cost and effort to apply, literally pennies. To top it off, they don't even do a whole lot in-house, but send it to labs which are basically sweet shops that can take up to 2-3 weeks when labor time is literally under 5 minutes. Instead of training real opticians and technicians, they're just glorified sales staff now. Most of the time they don't even bother with proper measurement for PD, frame width, or arm fitting. Was an optician in the early 90s. I'm horrified at what the business has become. Mattress industry, specifically, mattress firm. The non-profit world. Unfortunately, most people at the top are in it to make a name for themselves and don't usually care about the mission of the organization. Hear me out. K-pop. The music and the art industry. Apparently tiger zoos. Edit. Thank you for the gold. You will probably never recover financially from this. Defense contract manufacturing. When I worked in that field it was like a time capsule to 70s stereotypes. Drink for lunch. Whiskey in the desk drawer. Everyone freaking everyone. And the best seats at the biggest games for decision makers. What industry isn't? I have no proof of this, but the high-end art industry, I 100% believe most of it is just to launder money. 30 industry. Fast food is whack. My dad knows a story from someone who works for a nationwide grocery chain. They have to deal with an Italian mafia to import balsamic vinegar. Shipping industry, with major corporations such as Walmart being one of the biggest contributors to selling stolen goods. Sometimes trucks go missing, or sometimes trucks leave earlier than the established time of departure and never arrive to their destinations. Let's say you have a Walmart appointment for 9 AM. For a 2,000 carton order, it would take at least 2 hours to load all that. But once the loading is done, the truck driver needs to wait until confirmation is given in written form. Well, Walmart truck drivers vanish halfway through the loading and never return. Now, Walmart has about 1,000 boxes not accounted for, plus no confirmation whatsoever that these 1,000 boxes were part of that 2,000 carton order, so they treat them like a bonus. So far, only ups. FedEx and Fredmere are the only companies that keep a close count and send back anything that wasn't in their original order. Heck, Fredmere sends the entire order back just for a single mislabeled box. Lol. These 3 guys are the good guys, from what little I've seen. But Walmart, Jesus. Sometimes, boxes get labeled as being something entirely different in order to bypass special qualifications or restrictions. For example, about the time when Corona Chan started going crazy, we had to label toys and board games as groceries for a huge Walmart order that took about a week and a half to properly label and ship. It was a nightmare and pretty much every employee aside from the administrative staff was disgusted and mad. Sex toys. It's horribly unregulated, and there are tons of manufacturers that use unsafe materials to make their toys. r/sex toys has lots of great info for people looking to get any. Medical research. The only way people can keep their jobs at a lot of the institutions with better facilities is to create a steady stream of high-impact publications. Now, research doesn't work that way. You get the supported results whenever it happens. But that's not how hiring, promotion, or tenure committers see it. This means that In order to ensure you get enough of these desirable publications in the right period, you have to do all sorts of corner cutting. You publish before the results are well supported. You publish results that are unrepeatable. You write papers in the smallest possible units of the work, so people need to wait years to see what the full results are. In the process, junior scientists' careers can be made or absolutely destroyed in this system. A lucky student who gets the right project can find themselves as first author on a very high impact paper and be set for years. But an experienced and previously successful postdoc can be ruined when they can't produce the results the senior scientists want, or just not in the right time frame. The senior scientists rarely have the time to do or carefully look over the actual research because they are so busy actually writing the papers and the grants needed to fund the work in the first place. If reviewers catch these issues with the papers, the authors just shop the paper to other journals until it passes, and or they put up such a pitched battle with the editors they just let it pass. Sometimes the eds feel they can't handle the pressure. Sometimes are just convinced by the bombast. All of us have seen published papers that we rejected for other journals earlier because the work is poorly done or is just incorrect. To be clear, the authors really believe in their papers, even when they are aware of their shortcomings. And they usually have plenty of evidence that papers, just as problematic or worse, have been published. So why not this? On top of everything, the universities and research institutions work over these findings with their press department, and by the time it makes it to journalists, the story is so distorted that it's barely related to the actual work. Bloggers digest this even further and the misperceptions have spread all over a much wider community. Even other scientists in different areas of the same field will absorb this news as truth. These other scientists on those committees mentioned above, demanding a particular kind of result. As a result of all this, medical research is much more inefficient and expensive than it needs to be. However, scientists need to jobs, grant money, and good facilities to do their work at all. And the system makes it clear what they need to do to ensure those necessities. So they oblige. Edit. I want to be clear that I'm only speaking to a very specific area of scientific research here, and I do not intend to tar the whole field with the same brush. Rating services like Yelp refuse to advertise, and your good reviews magically get rearranged. Hey, look, if you want to do that and be transparent, I get it. But most every business owner knows how scummy this is, and most clients just have no idea. I have a business that isn't something that would usually be looked for on Yelp. They called and I just froze. Luckily I do long-term rentals and was sold out. Explained I wouldn't have an opening for months. They seemed to leave me alone. Yet they have my business on the front page of Google search under the wrong category. Meat industry. The factories are straight up disgusting. Not hygienic and they break so many regulations it's ridiculous. But OFC, when an inspection comes everything is in order. Eyewear. Luxottica owns a large majority of eyewear and holds a virtual monopoly on the market. They control all prices and will crush competition. The only reason eyeglasses and sunglasses are so expensive is because of price gouging. Cruise ships. I was told I was having a minimum of 1 day off every week and work normal hours, 8-10 h/day, with a good pay and good prepaid tips. I ended up working 30 days in a row, all over 400 hours, for $1,600 with tips included. This company I was working for was called Scenic Cruises. Ship was called Manuscript Scenic Crystal, which was an Australian company working over a Swiss company going under a Maltese flag, sailing in Central Europe. That's how I understood it anyways. They deliberately did this so they could break international laws. I counted at least 5 that they broke. Biggest scam company I ever worked for. I resigned after my first month. The police boarded the ship every once in a while because they knew this, but they couldn't do crap because they had no jurisdiction over the ship. I was forced to work with a 39 Celsius fever. I really wanna frick this company up, but I literally have no idea how. And hiring an international lawyer or whatever is too expensive. Edit. If anyone knows how, please contact me. Politics. Like however shady you think it is, I promise you it's shadier. Nestle. They use child labor. steal the freshwater reserves from small villages in South Africa promising to give them better access to it, then privatize it and attempt to sell it back to them as bottled water at a price they can't afford. Not to mention, I believe they used some water sources rural villages needed for drinking water and used it to pump their wastewater into, then hide behind their lawyers to let them get away with it. The gourmet mushroom industry. The short of it is that I pulled over to check on what I thought was a forest fire in the middle of nowhere, British Columbia. Turned out it was a wandering grove of, for lack of a better title, Canadian mushroom gypsies looking for matasuki, pine, mushrooms, and chanterelles. Next thing you know, my car keys vanished, and I was put to work for 2 days with payment being a sandwich and a few drinks. We wandered the forest, digging up pine buttons, and learned way more about mushrooms than I ever imagined. And we were warned heavily to stay close to our own /captors /kidnappers whatever, as the rival group was not above violent tactics if you entered their territory. This was affirmed when I stumbled upon an angry man from the other side pointing a shotgun at me. Whether or not there's truth to it I don't know, but supposedly the mushroom world was once incredibly lucrative until the Chinese mob infiltrated it and gouged the prices. After 2 days my keys mysteriously reappeared with my car unharmed and nothing missing. No one would answer where it went, but they all knew. Hands down the nicest kidnappers ever, but it was a wild experience. Edit. Oh my land, to this blew up. I found the journal entry with the full story. A few years back I started writing short stories on my bizarre life experiences, and thankfully, this was one of them. I'll find a way to share it as soon as I have better access than my phone. Rowley edit 2. Oof. Where do I share it? It's too long for a comment. Should I just share it as a document and give you the link? Sorry, I'm a Reddit idiot. Rowley edit 3. Okay, I shared it in 3 comments below. Hope you enjoy it. The umbrella industry. The tire business. Tires are a scam and shouldn't cost anywhere near what they do. Everyone along the supply chain is making bank. It's one of the industries I would love to see disrupted. Football. Edit. Gosh, I meant soccer. V. Mental health facilities. A lot of people trust today's mental health facilities, but from my experience they're quite flawed. Staff can be judgmental and condescending and downright cruel. A family member of mine was institutionalized for a while. I say with full certainty she was healthier before she went in than coming out. The places I've seen are most definitely for profit. They had no intentions of having her fixed and released. Also, sloppy. She was given the wrong people's meds several times. She was also prescribed dangerous combinations that wound up having her sent to the ER. Really stupid mistakes were made over and over. Universities. Seriously. Gentlemen's clubs aka strip clubs. I worked as a bouncer /DJ for many years in a couple clubs, and there is a lot going on in the background that is shady as hell. Not only from the dancers but also bartenders, bouncers, management, owners, etc. The plastic industry. They focus on telling the individual to recycle as a way to address/fix the global trash crisis. The real focus should be on companies that mass produce plastic and label it as recyclable, but recycling companies cannot actually recycle the materials. It costs too much to recycle certain materials and no one is willing to buy them. Pharmaceutical industry. To wit. 1. Controlled by multinational corporations, but prices differ radically from country to country. 2. A much stronger financial incentive for a treatment, continuing need for a prescription, than a cure. 1 dose and you are done. 3. Advertising. How is that a legitimate basis for selecting medication? I could go on, but that's a decent start. Fishing industry. As a new manufacturer up against brands well known for manufacturing in China for generations, I found that from the highest up to the lowest down, they present an offer to make more money together, and time after time after time, it doesn't pan out as presented. I stopped my business. In about a year, I might give it another shot, but times will be much different. However, those businesses have generations of success killing the competition. I'm pretty sure I'm no match for them due to, sorry, I have actual values. I'll get financially killed again. But hey, if you like to fish, I make a really good fishing line cutter. We can do commerce in a better way. Art. I heard a lot of the plain color paintings that are sold for ridiculous prices is for money laundering, but if it's not, then I don't know who in their right mind who buys a plain white painting for like $200 million. The wedding industry, at least in the US. The whole point of the wedding industry is to trick people into overspending by preying on their desire to have the perfect wedding. So you have to have multiple photo shoots, a beautiful venue, excellent catering, an expensive dress/suit, etc. all at an exorbitant price. It's a scam. A lot of traditional wedding staples, like the white dress, service performed by minister, etc. are based on actual traditions and beliefs. But those traditions don't mean anything anymore and now are sold as traditional to squeeze more money out of you. Tell me, why would you ever need 1,000 photographs each of your engagement, your first look, the ceremony, the bridal party, etc.? How many of the 50 good ones are you going to actually look at and will mean anything? Maybe a handful. The rest just get dumped on social media and forgotten in a few months. I'm not saying that you shouldn't take pictures at your wedding. You should. But there's no reason to spend thousands to take pictures of contrived setups, like the first look. I've been to and been in a number of weddings of my friends and have seen the ludicrously overpriced things the planners convinced them to buy into. And that's just the financial side. That's not even getting into the insanity that is planning the damn thing. Trying to get families on board and compromise their demands is a whole other shady industry. Scholarly journals. The actual research is usually paid for by the government. When it isn't paid for by the government, it's paid for by a foundation, or in pharmaceuticals by a corporation that is developing a drug. The people who vet the research are all paid by their respective universities. All the journal does is distribute it, yet they charge way more per page than anyone else who just distributes other people's writing. Hollywood/television in general. Every industry is shady as frick. The childbirth industry. The propane and propane accessories industry. If Reddit is to be believed, most car washes are probably just fronts to launder money through. Rent to own. They prey on the poor, and you pay way more than what the item is actually worth, let alone selling for. Dog boarding/daycare. Not shady in the Mayfair sense, but you'd be surprised at some of the places I've worked at. Aggressive dogs don't get kicked out. Very dishonest about what goes on behind the scenes. Not enough staff to care for the number of dogs. My coworkers at my current job have had the same experience as well. We were all very happy to find a place that actually treats the dogs as the #1 priority. Most people are just in it for the money, which is funny cause there isn't much money in the dog industry. It's the 80/20 rule. 20% of any industry is going to cause 80% of the problems for that industry. This is why we need actual government oversight and regulation to minimize the damage caused to society by duplicitous business practices. But we changed our campaign finance laws to legalize bribery, and now the 20% gets rewarded for causing damage to the society for profit. Get money out of politics and watch your life improve for the better. Higher education. It's a lot of nearly scamming kids into going to specific schools and not properly preparing them for the cost and, in most cases, overwhelming debt. $900 textbooks, $750 digital codes for a few lines of text or tests, books that change one sentence per edition, change yet require new books, etc., etc. Not everyone can be a doctor, or psychologist, or teacher, yet schools will pump out hundreds a year for a single profession, and keep telling others that the demand will be there. Then you'll have the assholes calling people names for going for worthless degrees, because somehow that's helpful. Then you have asshole freakwads touting how they worked 10 jobs working 340 hours a week, while doing full-time school, taking care of 16 kids, a wife with cancer, solving world hunger, and curing cancer, and they still got straight A's and a job paying $400. 000 out of school. If they can do it, then you're just a lazy friker if you can't. Crap like that. I'm more comfortable than anyone in my crappy redneck drug addict piece of crap family has probably ever been. Despite that, I still understand and recognize the plight of others less fortunate than me. The whole thing is a depressing racket. In case you hadn't noticed in the past few years or so, video games media. The only issue is that people act as if this is a new thing and ignore ZX Spectrum magazines reviewing games entirely based on fake screenshots. Amiga games companies suing publishers because their review scores weren't high enough. Atari buying positive reviews for Drive 3R from Future Publishing. An editor being sacked because their review score for a game that was sponsoring the site wasn't high enough. The list goes on and on. Amongst British ZX Spectrum magazines in the 1980s, 75% was effectively agreed upon as the lowest score a magazine could give to a game published by an advertiser. Payday loan places. They seem shady, but they're much shadier than their peer. Frick those places. The glasses industry, spectacles, or sunglasses. Almost every brand is owned by a single company, Luxottica, and they set prices as high as they please. They buy competition out of the market and raises prices unreasonably high. One of their managers once said, "The cost of something is as high as people are willing to pay for it." The paint industry. So many colors. Sunset or retractable awning. IDK if this really classifies as shady. But the criminology field and fields where you work with criminals can be quite interesting. You study so many crimes and ways of committing crimes. You also probably pick up some of the laws and things that are in place. With this information, if you really tried, you could probably come up with a pretty good plan on how to do something illegal without getting caught. This also probably applies with lawyers. They know the ins and outs of the justice system and probably have connections. Personally, I think people like the police, the lawyers, and people working in and around the criminology field could come up with pretty shady stuff if they put their minds to it. Water bottles. They sell water for prices thousands of times higher than just pouring yourself a glass at home, and produce mountains of unrecycled plastic all under the guise of it being cleaner than tap. It commonly isn't. The water bottle industry is built on a lie and has made the earth much worse for their own profit. Amazon. Multi-level marketing, Sensi, it works, Arbon, etc.